I always get a little bit concerned about the cost word when describing outcomes, because there's a huge difference between cost and value. Yeah, there's a huge difference between cost and value. If I thought to myself, which would I actually rather have, the cheapest pension solution on the market or the one that's most likely to deliver me the best outcomes, I'd probably opt for the latter. And I feel really sorry for employers who are going to struggle to make well-informed decisions when looking at things like costs, because having the cheaper solution isn't always necessarily the best one. And if you get that decision wrong, an employer might find themselves locking themselves into a corner position where they're telling their workforce that cost is key, when in actual fact it's not, it's value. The challenge the industry has is actually communicating that value for the options that are actually not the cheapest in the marketplace. But that's a challenge that we've had for 20, 30 or so years.
And I think it's particularly difficult now that we're in this compliance phase of getting people in, so cost does pop up. And people haven't the time to actually compare what they're getting for the differential in cost. We shall, and it's a challenge, it's not just for AE schemes, it's a challenge for all defined contributions schemes in general, looking at what good is and what it looks like coming out.
I suppose we're back to it's the HR and payroll teams predominantly making the call, and they've got a budget to fulfil. And I suppose potentially the employee pension pots are the victim of that by no malice, purely by the fact that a job's got to be done on a timescale.
I think we have to not just think about what is a good pension scheme from the employer's perspective, but actually what is good for the workforce. And I think we need to start thinking about pensions in terms of income replacement. So at the moment, pensions are designed solely around a normal retirement date. Everything is age related. Perhaps if we had a shift to actually thinking, okay, well, people want to actually have an income replacement of 60% or 50%, and they need to be educated as to actually what pot they need available to them if that's what they want to do. Not bringing into account, sort of not taking into account so far the changes in the budget last week as to actually, well, is income replacement still what people are going to do in sort of 30, 40 years' time? And I think that there does need to be that big shift in thinking, and new projects, investment projects need to be brought onto the market that deal with that.
Just to answer your question in terms of what good looks like, I think the first thing that we need to get across is that if you could have the best pension scheme in the world, yeah. But if you don't put the contributions in, you're not going to get the end outcomes. Yeah, people talk about DB being better than DC, but actually look at the level of contributions that are going into DB compared to DC. By definition, you're going to have poorer outcomes. There's no such thing as free money. So the debate has to, for me, be focused on contributions. And scheme quality is an important part of that, because you want to give people the trust and confidence to actually save. But if you put very little in, you're going to get very little out. I think I'm in Andy's camp when we talk about cost. So I think I prefer to talk about value for money. Cost is important. It's important from a trust and confidence angle, actually, because it's very easy to write headlines about Rip Off Britain, about a run-off pension scheme, costs and charges, eroding X% of your pension pot. If you're seeing headlines like that, in the national press, then of course it's going to dent your trust and confidence in pensions. So we need full transparency when it comes to pension costs. And also, I would go a step further, I would argue for standardisation.
We've got to make it as easy as possible. So I think the key points being made are vital: transparency, simplicity, ease of use, and think about things from the perspective of the total employee experience. The administration, the communication, the advice that they get, the guidance that they get. We have a collective responsibility to try to make that as good as possible.